Dricus Duplessis, my golden goose. I pick him every single fight, and he wins every single time and proves me right. And all the people that doubted me before the fight, they always disappear. I'm not going to spike the football too hard or do too big of a victory celebration because I get a lot of these picks wrong. But I'm definitely glad I got the Dricus one right. Him and Kaikar France, they cashed out a $510 parlay for me, so that made me one happy man. Although I did lose 2 other bets, but I also won another bet. So it was a great night for me financially. I think I profited over $400. So getting paid to watch the sport that I love with my friends, it's a good life, great Saturday night. We'll get into the business though. Dricus, I had him up 2-1 going into the 4th round. I thought, he outlanded Izzy 22-16 round 1. He threw 57 strikes. Izzy threw 30-something strikes. So he threw more volume, landed more, and neither really did a crazy amount of damage. So I thought Dricus won that just from being the aggressor and throwing more volume and landing more. And then round 2, I thought Dricus won with the grappling. And I had him 2-0 going into round 3. But then Israel Adesanya, he impressed me. I'm not a big fan of him as a person, but I always loved Stylebender as a fighter until his weird interaction with DDP. That was the final straw in me being a fan of him. However, round 3, he was doing tremendous body work. DDP loves to do this thing where he puts both arms up like this and he really protects his head, but he leaves that body open. And I guess Dricus and his team, or Izzy and his team, they saw this hole in his game and he was going after that body nonstop. And that also will zap your cardio, and that'll also get you to drop your hands to where then you can go up high and land something. So very smart of him to attack the body. More fighters should attack the body, honestly, because it sets up your headshots and it drains their stamina. And I get in MMA, it's more dangerous to attack the body just because you can catch a flying knee up the middle, elbows, etc. It's not like boxing. However, I was nervous. Going into round 4, I was drunk and had a lot of money on the line and was definitely nervous. Really wanted Dricus to win. And that's why I love fighting though. When you got someone you love or someone you hate and the stakes are high, it's the best sport in the world to watch. Round 4, Izzy came out. He was having another good round. He was landing a lot, working that body still. And halfway through the round, I'm like, man, Izzy's going to win this. It's going to be 2-2 going into round 5. And as bad as these judges have been, the hose job could be in because it seemed like every Aussie or New Zealander was getting the home-cooked judges in their favor. More about that later. But DDP, being the finisher he is, I think he hurt Izzy with a strike. And when Izzy gave his back up for the second time in the fight, and this time Dricus jumped on the back, locked in that choke, and tapped him out in the 4th round, which that was actually what I predicted. I think in my original prediction video, I predicted DDP by decision, but the closer we got to fight week, I just started hammering DDP by submission, because Dricus has the best takedowns of anyone that Izzy's fought, and he has the best submissions of anyone Izzy's fought. And Israel Adesanya loves to give his back up when he gets up. He gave his back up to Whitaker and he gave his back up to Vettori. So I knew that was going to be available. And Dricus, that's like his 11th submission now. So he's good at getting those. And man, I was happy. I'm not going to lie. I was really, really happy. Great job by DDP. I'm glad it's all put to rest. I'm glad they were amicable afterwards because it was so ugly in the build-up, and I'm glad that they could, be grown men, shake hands, and move on about their business. Izzy's actually very good at accepting loss. I've noticed that, whether it was the Blachowicz loss. The Pereira loss, he kind of didn't really accept, which is understandable. But he accepted the Strickland loss well, the DDP loss well. Like he's very good at giving a tip of the hat and not letting it ruin his life. Granted, he could be acting. I'm sure he's probably somewhere crying, just like he was at the press conference. But either way, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad DDP's still the champion. Now for the rest of the card, Kai Car France. I picked Urseg in my breakdown, but I got drunk Saturday night, and I was looking at those odds, and they were just insane. I mean, when you look at Kai's resume, it's better than Steve's. He has much better wins than Steve, and I ended up throwing some money on Kai and DDP after Gamrot blew it for me, and that cashed me out big time. And that was a great knockout by Kai, and he really beat Albazi his last fight anyway. So I'm totally down for Pantoja versus Kai Car France for a title shot or for a title fight. I think that would be incredible, and I hope he gets that. A lot of people make fun of Kai for his goofy face and all that, but it cracks me up. You know, he's a character, and he always has a fun fight, and he's one of the best strikers at flyweight. And when you telling me I'm going to get plus 250 on Kai in a standing only fight, I like my chances, and that was kind of where my head was at. Now to Gamrot and Dan Hooker, I thought Gamrot won that fight. You look at round 2, they landed the exact same amount of strikes, and Gamrot had 2 takedowns. You look at round 1, Gamrot landed more. They both dropped each other. I think Gamrot had a takedown at some point as well. You know, you look at the stats, and I know that didn't tell the whole story, but Dan was all cut up too, so don't give me this damage bullcrap, because Gamrot did a lot of damage to him as well. But I knew when it went to decision, I just knew, because that was right after the Tai Tuivasa fiasco. I knew that Dan was going to get that decision, and I was pissed when he got it because that was $100 down the drain, but then that forced me to then do the bet on Kai and DDP, so it ultimately actually won me more money, so it was a good thing. And Dan winning is better for the division than Gamrot. He's a more fun fighter, and Gamrot's just boring and lame. And, you know, I think Dan has a few options now. I would like to see Dan, you know, if they're going to do an interim title fight, no one makes more sense than Dan. He just beat Gamrot, who's beaten Arman, and that moves Dan to the top 5 of the division. And in between Dan and Arman, you got Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, all of them coming off losses. So if they're doing an interim title fight, you almost got to do Arman versus Dan. But if they're not, then I think Dan versus Charles Oliveira, Dan versus Justin Gaethje, even rematches, you know, Dan versus Poirier would make a lot of sense. They had a fight of the year type fight, their first fight. Or if they wanted to do Dan versus Michael Chandler rematch. I think all those make sense. And then I see Dan trying to get the Conor match just to piss off Chandler, which that would be cool too. So he's got a lot of options. As far as Gamrot goes, I would like to see him and Rafael Fiziev rematch, because their first fight ended with that fluke knee injury. So I think Fiziev, Gamrot, let them run that back and handle their business, because, you know, their first fight was pretty much a fluke, a lot like Aspinall, Curtis Blades, how he throw a kick and goes down because his knee went out. Now, to the juicy, bad part of the card. Okay, I bet on Rosenstrike. I knew, you know, he's hard to knock out. It's going to be a stand-up fight. He's slick on the feet, you know, ties on a 4-fight losing streak where he's been finished 4 times in a row. I really liked Ross in that matchup. Rosenstrike, I think he outstruck him 20-something to 7 round 1, then 20-something to 6 round 2, and then another huge striking discrepancy round 3. And so you're thinking it is the most clear 30-27 in the history of fighting. One judge scores at 30-27, so one judge gets it right. One judge somehow gave one round a tie and did a 29-28 Raws. which that's bad, but whatever. You got the right guy in the end. One guy gave it 30-27 tie. As someone who puts money on this, as someone who truly cares about the integrity of the sport, as someone who wants the right guy to win, even if it makes my pick wrong or whatever, I want the guy who deserves it to win. Their livelihood depends on it. They get double their money usually because they get a win bonus if they win. So the win affects their pay more than almost anything. You know, the fight bonuses, that's whoever Dana has a hard on for that night and wants to give them $50K. The win bonus is guaranteed. You win, you get your win bonus. It's the only thing the fighters truly control. And the fact that one judge could give that 30-27 tie is the worst scorecard in MMA history. It's pathetic, and something needs to be done about it. I want criminal charges put on this man. I know he got fired and relieved of his duties. That's not good enough for me. That's criminal what he did. You know, I think that's robbery. Legitimately. He needs criminal charges. I hope the UFC does an investigation. I hope Australia does an investigation. And I hope that motherfucker goes to jail. Because fuck that guy. Howie Booth's his name. Yeah, fuck that guy. Now, to the opening of the card. Carlos Pratis, another one of these guys who he's out of Gene Silva's gym and Baralho's gym, the Fight Nerds, and he impressed me. You know, he's huge for that division, really tall, really long reach, and he really impressed me. You know, I think he's gonna struggle when he fights grapplers. However, striking wise, that man's dangerous. That man is very, very dangerous, and I would love to see him fight a Brian Battle next. There's so many good matchups for him. I'm not going to lock in on one, but put him in there against another striker and let him put on a show. That kid, there's something there with that kid. He was very calm too, and he didn't really chase the finish either. I mean, he was very good at keeping the distance, and he would get in and land, and then he would get out and not be hit at all. And so Pratis really impressed me. Walter Walker, that was an interesting scenario. I mean, he beats the guy, and then like the true piece of trash that he is, Taffa comes up and slaps him after the fact. When, you know, and now I hope Walker gets to fight his brother and beat him up too. He won me $100 on that, so I was happy. Kalubiel, that dude sucks. I really don't understand how he had his opponent hurt so bad and still found a way to lose the fight. I mean, he has some of the worst fight IQ in the UFC. And so, but honestly, as crooked as the judges were, he was the one Aussie they didn't want to give the decision to. So that was interesting. But I thought he clearly won that fight. But I mean, he did everything he could to give away round 3. I mean, he hurts him round 1 and then kicks so hard he misses and falls down like an idiot. And then, you know, round 2, he hurts him really bad. And then instead of letting him stand up and finish him, he just, I don't know. He's an idiot. Don't ever put your money on Josh Klubiel. That's a public service announcement. Do not bet on Josh Klubiel. He is an idiot. But sorry for the long rant. I digressed. I'm mad. He lost me money. That's why I'm so mad. I'll be honest. However, 305, amazing card. Loved what Duplessis did. Loved what Kai Kara-France did. Gamrot versus Hooker was a banger. You know, as Dan Hooker said, he finally made Gamrot a fun fighter. Rosenstrike, he looked really good. Would love to see him fight Spivak next or Derek Lewis. And yeah, Pratis, that kid, he was put in a showcase spot and he showed out. So overall, I'm really happy for my boy DDP. Don't know what the future holds for Izzy. Maybe move up to 205, chase that pay trilogy fight in MMA. Who knows? But it was a great card. Rawdog out.